He would sneak into Dumebi's room at night, after Ada had gone to bed, and sit on her bed, telling her stories and stroking her body. Dumebi would lie there, frozen with fear, not knowing what to do or say. Eventually, Kemi's advances turned into full-blown sexual abuse. He would promise Dumebi gifts and toys if she would let him do it, and he would threaten to hurt her or her mother if she told anyone. Once upon a time, in the heart of Ikorodu, there lived a man named Kemi. At first glance, Kemi appeared to be a charming and charismatic man, known for his smooth talk and flirtatious demeanor. However, beneath this facade, Kemi hid a dark secret. Kemi had a reputation for being a womanizer, always on the prowl for his next conquest. But little did anyone know, his predatory behavior extended beyond just women. For the past few months, Kemi had been secretly sleeping with his 8-year-old niece, Dumebi, whenever his sister went out. Dumebi was a beautiful and innocent child, full of life and curiosity. She adored her uncle Kemi and looked up to him, never suspecting that he would do her any harm. However, Kemi exploited this trust, promising to buy her gifts and toys if she would allow him to have his ways on her body. Dumebi, who was too young to fully understand what was happening, would always cry, but Kemi would always reassure her that it was their little secret. Kemi's advances towards Dumebi began slowly and subtly. At first, he would simply hug her a little too tightly, or brush his hand against her body in a way that made her feel uncomfortable. Dumebi was only 8 years old, and she didn't quite understand what was happening, but she knew that it didn't feel right. As time went on, Kemi's behavior became more and more inappropriate. He would sneak into Dumebi's room at night, after Ada had gone to bed, and sit on her bed, telling her stories and stroking her body. Dumebi would lie there, frozen with fear, not knowing what to do or say. Eventually, Kemi's advances turned into full-blown sexual abuse. He would promise Dumebi gifts and toys if she would let him do it, and he would threaten to hurt her or her mother if she told anyone. Dumebi was trapped in a cycle of fear and manipulation, and she didn't know how to escape. The abuse went on for months, with Kemi becoming more and more brazen in his actions. He would often take Dumebi out of school early, under the pretense of needing to run errands, and then take her back to his apartment to abuse her. Dumebi was too scared to tell anyone what was happening, and she felt like she was all alone in the world. As the abuse continued, Dumebi began to withdraw from her friends and family. She stopped playing with her toys, and she stopped laughing and smiling. Ada noticed the changes in her daughter's behavior, but she didn't know what was causing them, and tried to be more patient and understanding with Dumebi. But as the abuse went on, Dumebi's mental and emotional health began to deteriorate. She started having nightmares and panic attacks, and she would often wake up screaming in the middle of the night. Ada was worried and sick about her daughter, but she didn't know what was causing her distress. One day, while Kemi's sister was out running errands, Kemi decided to pay Dumebi a visit. He knew that she was home alone and saw it as the perfect opportunity to continue his abuse. However, as he entered the house, he was surprised to find Dumebi's older cousin, Chioma, sitting in the living room. Chioma looked at Kemi quizzically. "Hey Kemi, what are you doing here?" Kemi's smile returned, but there was a coldness in his eyes that made Dumebi shiver. "Just paying a visit to my favorite niece," he said. "But it looks like she has other plans." Chioma raised an eyebrow. "Is everything okay?" Dumebi looked up at her cousin, her eyes pleading. Chioma seemed to sense that something was wrong, and she quickly took charge of the situation. "Dumebi and I were just about to go to the park ourselves," she said, taking Dumebi's hand. Chioma, who was 16 years old, had come over to visit Dumebi and keep her company while her mother was out. She had noticed that Dumebi had been acting strange lately, and wanted to see if she could get to the bottom of it. Kemi tried to act casual, but Chioma could sense that something was off. She decided to stay in the living room and keep an eye on him. As Kemi made his way to Dumebi's bedroom, Chioma followed close behind. When she saw what Kemi was doing to Dumebi, Chioma was horrified. She couldn't believe that her own uncle would do something so monstrous. Without hesitation, she ran to the kitchen and grabbed a knife, determined to protect Dumebi at all costs. As Kemi tried to escape the room, Chioma confronted him, brandishing the knife. Kemi, who was much larger and stronger than Chioma, managed to overpower her and wrestle the knife away. However, in the struggle, the knife slipped and cut Kemi's arm, causing him to cry out in pain. Hearing the commotion, Dumebi's mother rushed home and was shocked to find her daughter crying in Chioma's arms, while Kemi lay on the floor, bleeding from his wound. It was then that Dumebi finally found the courage to speak up and tell her mother what had been happening all this time. She was momentarily stunned, but then she saw Dumebi, curled up in Chioma's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Ada's heart shattered into a million pieces as she realized what had been happening right under her house. Without hesitation, Ada grabbed Kemi by the collar and began screaming at him, demanding to know how he could do such a thing. Kemi, who was clearly in shock and disoriented from the injury, tried to deny it, but Ada wasn't having any of it. Kemi was arrested and charged with sexual assault, while Dumebi was taken to a hospital to receive medical treatment and counseling. It was a long and difficult road to recovery, but with the support of her family and loved ones, Dumebi was eventually able to heal and move on from the trauma. As for Chioma, she was hailed as a hero for her bravery and quick thinking. She had risked her own life to protect Dumebi and had brought Kemi's reign of terror to an end. The family was forever grateful to her and vowed to always stand by her side. Years later, Dumebi grew up to be a strong and independent woman, determined to make a difference in the world. She became a social worker, dedicated to helping other children who had been victims of abuse. And while the memories of what had happened to her still haunted her from time to time, she refused to let it define her. Instead, she chose to use her experiences to help others and make the world a better place. As for Kemi, he was sentenced to life in prison, where he would spend the rest of his days paying for his crimes. But no matter how long he spent behind bars, he would never be able to erase the pain and suffering he had caused. He was a cautionary tale, a reminder that actions have consequences, and that the truth will always come to light. Thank you for joining us on this journey through African tales. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories, timeless wisdom, and a journey into the heart of our culture. Your support helps keep these stories alive for generations to come. Your support helps us share these stories with the world.